everybody and welcome to the channel. It's Kyle here. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different to what I usually do. Not exactly a nerdy news or a movie review. It's going to be something a little bit different. I've seen a couple of really great shows recently. I've just kind of thought, and just particular episodes in general, and I've just kind of wanted to think, why don't I do reviews and kind of recommend some shows to people that they may or may not have seen, kind of give my views on these particular shows, whether they have just started or they've been around for a little bit longer. But today I'll be reviewing the first two episodes of You, Me and the Apocalypse, which is a British slash American science fiction comedy drama. Yeah, practically what it is about. It's about the apocalypse. It's kind of talking about the 33 days before and up to the apocalypse, and it's hard to explain. It's a really different show. It's unique. It kind of flows several different characters and storylines, and they sometimes merge to sometimes kind of interact with each other and kind of pass by each other. And I've only seen the first two episodes, but it's kind of different characters. It's really hard to explain. It gets really confusing sometimes, but just loads of this cast of all these quirky and interesting and characters. It's mostly a comedy for the most part. A lot of really great jokes, a lot of really great humour in the first two episodes, and a couple of references to pop culture and other sci-fi movies, as like a sly wink to how. And sometimes people are what I find funny in the show is that the majority of the characters do find kind of the whole apocalypse thing as a life-shattering thing, since as a life-shattering event, since it is. But what I find kind of hilarious is that some characters kind of think, oh, it's just the apocalypse, Not all of it. Only most of the planet will be destroyed. It's kind of, I find it's that sort of quirky dry wit that kind of propels the show. It's got a couple of really great performances. They can balance both the drama and the more humorous elements really well, actually. Great performances from Pauline Quirk, and do not know the name of the actor, but he was in Spy, and he was also in Horrible Histories. He's a really great lead actor, and he actually plays two characters, but I'll not reveal about the storyline. Really great storyline. But also Rob Lowe plays this American priest in the Vatican, and so it just really follows all these really interesting kind of quirky and unique characters. And most of the storylines are interesting. In fairness, one or two of them I was kind of like, oh god, I really want to get back to the other storyline. But for the most part, all of them are pretty interesting, and even the ones you don't really want to spend time on, there is the odd really good joke or dramatic moment, or just sometimes and it might involve a character that you really like. It's a very the first episode I do think is a lot better, especially since it is the episode that sets up the entire series. Most episodes and first episodes, it is kind of getting used to its environments and kind of is if it's just trying to set up a lot of things. But the first episode does do what it wants to do really well, and it's got some truly hilarious jokes, some really great dialogue, some really I usually don't kind of go on cinematography or kind of imagery and stuff, but it actually does. I got some really great cinematography. Rob Lowe and all different actors and actresses that come and go with either smaller or larger parts in the series, and also the ending is quite good. Since it kind of sets the series really nicely, it does really get you really hooked at the start of it and also at the end, so that you can keep on watching and you watch the next couple of episodes. I'm not sure how long the series is. I think it's a joint production between America and Britain. I'm not sure how long it's actually going to be, since it feels like one of those shows that could go on for a long time or a short time, which I know sounds really strange, and you're probably thinking, what am I going on about? But it feels like one of those shows that could go on for maybe 20 episodes, but it could also go on for only 10. It's that kind of show. But it kind of hooks you at the end, where it talks about it kind of skips to the very day of the apocalypse and how there's only 13 people left, or just 13 people that we know of that are still left. And of course, that's at both the start and the end of the show. But they kind of add more onto it at the end, of course, to kind of get you hooked for the rest of the show. But it is really interesting. Got some really great, quirky, interesting characters, and even the storylines and kind of dilemmas and different things that you don't really care about, since there is, or don't care about, or just don't really like. One in particular I don't really like, especially since certain characters in it. But The rest of it I really enjoy, especially the main story, or one of the main storylines about kind of like this man who's kind of bored with life, or he isn't really bored with his life, but his friend is kind of trying to encourage him to kind of think out of the box and kind of do things that he's never done before, and kind of try and reinvent his life, since his life is so stale and he's always, it's kind of like a repeat after repeat after repeat, and he's not doing anything interesting, and he's had a sad kind of, not really break up, but I'm not going to spoil what happens. But since that I'm not going to spoil too much here, since it can be bad when you spoil a movie, but it can be even worse when you spoil a TV show. But it's probably just as equally as bad. But I'm not going to spoil that storyline, but there's some interesting characters, really interesting dilemmas. Some characters kind of feel out of place at times, but for the most part, it's hard to explain the show, since it is such a different show, especially since most shows do, in fairness, just kind of focus on a main group of characters, but all these characters are from different from around the world and from different settings and different things, and certain characters, most of their storyline is more humorous, and then certain characters it's more dramatic, and so sometimes kind of balances both the humor and the drama. It's a very interesting show. It's very hard to explain, but it kind of follows. I'll name one or two of the characters. Kind of one of them is kind of a person who's been unrightfully sent to jail, and kind of like took the fall for her son when once he committed a enormous crime. And one of them, as I mentioned, was the man who kind of has a run of the mill life, and his friend is trying to encourage him, and then loads of crazy things start happening to him, and he kind of starts revealing, well, not really revealing, his mother starts revealing certain things to him that kind of turn his life upside down. And of course, another thing that turns all of these characters upside down, and one of these other characters, of course, being Rob Lowe, as a kind of a he's not your regular priest. He's kind of more rude and kind of sarcastic, and he kind of smokes and does all these things that the rest of the church and just the place that he's in don't really agree with. But it's just got some really interesting, quirky characters, and um, the ending, I think, is probably the best part about the episode. It's not that I don't enjoy the entire episodes or both episodes. A whole special episode, second episode, is more kind of character development. Although it's not saying that it's not good. It's just more character development rather than kind of story. It does have story, but it's more character development, trying to develop these characters, and it does introduce one or two more characters that may or may not play a bigger role. And even at the end, what I love about the show is that at the end of it, it shows around 10 or more characters inside this room, and some of them, of course, you know from the first episode and second episode, but a lot of them you still don't actually know, which I love, since I know they'll obviously be showing all these characters and how they meet and how they kind of develop their storylines, and of course introducing these new characters and seeing how they fit into this universe that they create, which I really love. I'm down a minute. Which I kind of sorry which I really love. How they kind of leave it open ended. In fairness, most of the characters, well, not really open ended. Sorry, I'm explaining this really weirdly. So since it is such a interesting way to kind of set up your show. I know a lot of shows do this, but it's a kind of really interesting way of setting up your show. But I just kind of love that element, how you know that some of these characters you may or may not miss. I mean, not miss. I mean meet. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just a really interesting. I know I'm probably explaining it really horribly, and also the endings are really good since they kind of set up the series. Of course, the second episode not so much. It's more just like a cliffhanger to see what happens with certain characters. But I just really love the show, and it's got a really kind of a bit of a interesting commentary on kind of the world as we know it. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe. And if you've seen You Be in the Apocalypse, tell me what you guys think. Do you like it? Do you not? Do you think it's okay? And who's your favourite character and or storyline, or even both? Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe.